Hi folks, I just wanted to take a few minutes and share with you some of the hobby supplies I picked up recently and some of the ideas I have of how I could use them. And I'd also like to start a conversation about what kind of hobby places you guys buy things from. Where do you guys find your hobby supplies, and do you use everyday household items or do you just use stuff from the craft store? So I made a shopping trip to Dollar Tree here the other day. We were getting some things for the kids and I ended up coming away with more stuff than the kids did. So I'm just going to show you a few of the things I picked up and maybe a couple of hints and tips as well as to how you can pick up some things for making your miniature terrain and modeling, things like that. So there's a few things I picked up on Amazon, and one of the things is this clay. So this DOS clay, it's some air hardening clay. I'm interested and excited to use that in some of the projects I have in my mind. You can pretty much make anything you want out of it. I don't think it would hold up very well to rigorous use just as it is, but I think if you make something and coat it in Mod Podge, it should hold up quite well. So I'm interested to try that here pretty quick. Speaking of Mod Podge, another Amazon purchase is I got some gloss stuff again. I need to pick up some matte stuff as well. I have another bottle of this that's mixed with black paint, and I use that. I coat everything that I'm making in that stuff. It turns out nice and hard. Although I have discovered that if you mix something in there, like even paint, acrylic paint, it takes a lot longer to harden. And on my latest project that I'm working on, the Hobbit scene, the Riddles in the Dark, I attempted to use the Mod Podge as a water, because it dries clear and hard, but I mixed some blue ink in there and poured it on a little thicker. I mean, it's maybe, I don't know, like a half an inch thick at the most or something like that. No, probably not even that much. But it's like 3.5, 4 days now, and it's still not totally dry. So probably won't be doing that again, but I guess it was a good experiment. You can learn from my failures, hopefully. Another thing I picked up, this is a local pickup here, just from the home hardware store, is a little can of glow-in-the-dark paint. I just saw that as I was walking through the aisle, and I've used a little bit of this on, again, the Journeys in the Riddles in the Dark Hobbit scene. I made some fungus that's supposed to be hanging from the walls, and I painted it with this stuff, and it dries pretty much clear, like a little bit yellowish. But yeah, you charge it up with like a flashlight or whatever with the lights on, and it does glow in the dark, which is a pretty cool effect, I think. I also picked up a bunch of acrylic hobby paint. This is the type of paint I like to use when I'm doing terrain. For painting miniatures, I like using actual miniatures paint, but you just use way too much paint for doing big pieces of terrain and dioramas and that type of thing. So also at the dollar store, and I'm going to give a shout out here to Black Magic Craft. I watch a lot of his videos, and a while back he made one where he used these styrofoam, well, he used styrofoam plates, but I found these cool rectangular styrofoam trays. And I mean, you can use styrofoam for just about anything. So I used these recently. I made Gollum's boat actually out of it. I was going to make Gollum's boat out of some two-part molding stuff. It's got green stuff. It's basically you can mold with it and it turns hard. I was going to use that, but I decided to instead use styrofoam. So I cut some little pieces out, glued them together with the hot glue gun, primed it, painted it, and made a little boat. And what Black Magic Craft used these for was for making like terrain pieces. So he glued them to like a piece of cardstock. I guess not cardstock. It was foam core. And you can draw lines in there, make it look like stones, or you can make it look like a hardwood floor just by how you draw lines in there. So I was thinking I could make sheets for like a wall, you know, cut out the rectangle in there and make a stone wall or a wooden wall or floor. So yeah, I've already used those, and I'm anticipating using more. I mean, for $1.50 you get like 30 pieces, so those should last a while. Another Dollar Tree pickup. I was walking down an aisle and I saw this green cup, and I'm like, that looks like a nice fantasy dwarven mug in my mind. So I think I might actually work on that today. And for next week's video, I'm going to try to coat it. Either I'm going to wrap it in styrofoam and do some carving on there for a design, or I'm going to wrap it in that clay. I'm not entirely sure exactly what I'm going to do with that yet, but I thought, hey, this is a cool thing I could make into like a, Dungeons and Dragons prop, or just something that you would, put on your shelf as a cool hobby project. So if that turns out, I might do more of those. I saw on NerdForge, they made a goblet. Like they took like a wine glass and she added, some stuff to it and made like a cool fantasy inspired like goblet. So I picked up a few other things. So I picked up some of this wire armature. It's wired hemp cord, and it's got a wire in it so you can bend it however you want and it stays, but it's also got like a nice, almost like a tree trunk texture. So I was thinking I could use this for either trees in smaller miniature projects, or I could even use it to make it look like rope or something if I wrapped it around. So yeah, that was also at the Dollar Tree. And I also picked up some fake plants. So I just kind of looked at the bin there, and there's a couple that caught my eye. This one in particular, the leaves are probably too big to use for anything, but the flowers kind of intrigued me. I thought maybe I could use those and like just cut the whole like flower off and make like a miniature plant out of it, paint it over, make a plant out of it. Or I could use like a section and like turn it into a tree. So use like an armature for a tree. This one here, I wasn't sure exactly what I do with it, but it looks pretty cool, kind of almost otherworldly. So it says willow. I'm not sure that it looks like a willow, but this one also has particles that fall off really easy, so it would definitely need to be coated in something, glue or Mod Podge or something. I'm thinking about maybe using it for like vines, short chunks of it. And this one here, I've actually already used a part of it, and you can see I've cut pieces off. So I use this for some like hanging fungus in the cave scene, and I think it looks pretty cool. I'm not sure exactly what else it could be. You could cut it into little chunks and make it into like plants, but yeah, that was why I picked this one up, is to use it in that scene specifically. Another thing that, lots of hobby projects use is styrofoam. So I've got this piece here. I've just got a small piece as an example, but it's 1.5 inch thick. I guess you'd call it high density foam insulation. This particular one is a DuPont brand, but I picked this up at my local Home Hardware, and when I went to go buy it, I asked them if they had any spare pieces. Like oftentimes when they have it in the warehouse, they're going to break a piece by accident or gouge it, and then they can't sell it as a new piece. So when I went to go, I bought one piece and I went to go pick it up. It's a 2 foot by 8 foot sheet, 1.5 inch thick, and they gave me 2 full extra sheets of this gray stuff. So the one that I bought was pink. This stuff's gray, which the color really doesn't matter. It all gets coated anyways. But they gave me 2 full sheets, and they're both just slightly damaged. And I'm going to be able to use those in quite a few projects before they run out. So that was pretty cool, and that's a hint that you guys, when you go to a hardware store, ask if they have any scraps, leftovers. Yeah, honestly, even like plywood scraps or like broken boards or things like that. In miniature building, like terrain building, you can use, a piece of styrofoam like that. It'll go a long ways. It's not super expensive to buy it, but you can always ask and you might be able to get some for free. So that's another hint or idea that you guys could use in your own projects. Another thing, it's not something I bought. Well, I did buy it, but finished a can of Pringles the other day, and I was going to throw this out, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to try to keep this around and use it in a project. I have an idea of, using it in like some sort of a miniatures scene. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be yet, but I'm going to keep it around for a little while anyways, and if I can think of something I'm going to use it for, then I will. If not, I'll toss it out. But what kind of projects do you guys like to work on? And do you guys use supplies from the craft store? Do you Dollar Tree? Do you use Michael's? Another thing I picked up that I don't have, showing here is some wooden popsicle sticks or hobby sticks. I also picked those up from Dollar Tree. Do you guys like to just use everyday household items? What kind of items do you use in your own projects? I'd love to, try some new things. I have been trying some new things. And I'd love your feedback on what kind of things you use and how well they've worked for you. I would not recommend mixing Mod Podge with ink and trying to use it as water. That's one thing that you guys could take away from this, if there's anything here. One thing I did try, and I also saw this somewhere else, I saw this on Real Terrain Hobbies, and he has used, for Sculpt-A-Mold, instead of buying Sculpt-A-Mold, since it's been kind of hard to find lately, and it's also, you pay for it, a mixture of plaster of Paris and blow-in insulation, so cellulose insulation and plaster of Paris. And I used that mixture on my diorama project, and it worked really well. So I have a big bag of plaster of Paris. I also picked that up at my local hardware store. I didn't realize that they would have it until I looked for it, and they did. I think I got a 10 kg bag, and I don't remember what it cost, but it was not a lot of money overall. And the bag of insulation, I think, was like 50 bucks, but it'll last me for probably 100 years if not I used. So if anybody lives close and needs some insulation, I've got extra. But anyways, what kind of projects do you guys work on? What kind of things are you building right now? I'd love to see some pictures and get some feedback on how you use different items in your everyday hobby projects. So until next time, guys, I appreciate you watching. Make sure you subscribe to follow along with all the projects I'm doing. These videos are kind of a little in-between shots, but every Monday I release a full project video and sometimes bonus ones in between. So thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.